back to Wacky Talkies with your hosts, Ruby and Nate.
Yep.
With Cam Sully, a special contributor.
Yeah. Cam Sully. I'm going to do that thing that you do.
Thank you.
Anyways, we just got done, silly stringing my entire studio.
Aren't you glad you didn't get sprayed?
I'm glad I didn't get my Broncho shirt dirty. Because that would have been
Got my grandfather's, my late great-grandfather's coat dirty.
Yeah, well, it ended up turning on to a full-out war. But anyways, the purpose was that we got some really good photos. They'll be coming up on Instagram soon. So y'all watch out for that. I'll blast it everywhere. I'll blast the username everywhere. So
and when you guys get tired of it, just start sharing it. We'll leave you alone.
Yeah, share it, and we'll leave you alone.
Yeah. Also, guys, can you move up a little bit here?
Okay.
So that the editor has something to work with.
Okay, I don't want you to be covered. Okay.
So what did you guys do this weekend?
What did I do this weekend? I think I just did a freelance job. That's pretty much it. I just did a video film coverage of a Catholic school living stations performance.
Nice.
It was really nice.
Sounds like so much fun.
It was really fun. It was really enjoyable, actually. Excuse you. Excuse you.
Okay. I mean, to each their own.
What do you do?
What do you do?
I'm eating my pizza.
Isn't Nate the one that's always eating on the show with his Dr. Pepper? I'm gonna stop buying Dr. Pepper.
No, don't do that.
What did I do? Okay, so I watched a movie Friday night. It was on Netflix, I think, or did we Redbox it? No, we Redboxed it. It was
even bigger waste of time.
What fucking movie was it?
I don't know.
I know we tried to watch Highwaymen. This whole weekend. It was such a chore to watch.
You didn't like it? I love that director. I never watched it, but I love that director.
What else have you done?
My favorite movie, Saving Mr. Banks.
Oh,
okay.
John Lee Hancock.
Yeah. Well, no, it was really slow.
I haven't seen it yet.
And it was really slow for me.
You hate slow.
I mean, it's good that there was most story, because of the detectives. You got to know about them, in depth.
You have cable, right?
Yeah.
You should have watched Patriots Day.
No, actually, the other movie that I watched, which I'm excited about, was Hellboy.
Mm-hmm. That was actually really good. I saw it Friday. Ruby saw it Saturday.
How did it compare to the original?
It basically takes the premise of the 2004 one, and then, even though some of the gore and humor is a little overkill, David Harbour did a wonderful job of imitating then making Ron Perlman's role his own. A lot of people are bashing on this movie because of all the behind-the-scenes melodrama. I don't think that's fair. You got to judge the final product.
I thought there was more melodrama in the first one. I felt like the movie was more about his
behind
love.
The scenes.
Oh, and the behind the scenes.
Yeah, about director and.
Because that's what I was saying. I was like, the first Hellboy movies, they focus too much on his love for that girl.
I was not a fan of the Golden Army, but I was a fan of the original, and. This one I thought is more or less just as good, if not better. Yeah. And I
agree with you say about David Harbour. David Harbour, he made it his own.
He made it his own.
I really liked it. It was
Mila Jovovich was a fun bad gal.
Yeah, she was good.
The visual effects, everyone's complaining about the CGI in this movie. When I think of, every movie's got some lesser CGI.
Nowadays.
There's only maybe a few green screen shots that would have pissed me off. I didn't see anything there that just made me go, oh, they didn't even try.
And it was much more darker.
It was much more
much more
and I like that because
scarier,
I'm a fan of the comic.
Demonic scarier.
I read a lot of the comic, and they had just as much. It was the same producers as the original movies, and Mike Mignola had just as much to say on this one. And when I think of a bad, hell movie based on a comic book, I think of something like Ghost Rider or even Spawn.
Ghost Rider.
And it's like everyone.
I like Spawn. I actually fucking
the soundtrack
Spawn.
was good, but we'll leave it at that. But I just don't get this hate. 12% on RT, and I'm just like, no. Give that to something like The Room or Batman vs Superman. Don't give it to this.
Yeah.
This one had some effort put into it, and
I was really scared watching that witch, and then the children, and I'm like,
this was by what's his name, Neil Marshall, who has worked on movies like Dog Soldiers, Centurion, and Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones was so good. Oh my god.
Yep, he did some key episodes there, and he's always been one of my go-tos for B action. I wasn't crazy about The Descent, but he did a good job here.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, speaking of soundtracks.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about movie soundtracks and we'll break down.
There was a good soundtrack.
What some of our favorite soundtracks were in films.
Ladies first.
I will go first, actually.
Oh my god, do you have like a long ass list like
Yes,
last
I
time?
do, actually.
Don't interrupt him this time.
All right, and this is going to go in no particular order. Yeah, it's going to go in no particular order. And I would like to give a shout out to YouTuber Sideways, who was a key source for a lot of these interpretations.
I'm going to thank Spotify and eBay for giving me these rare soundtracks.
Yeah, for studying for these various soundtracks. And the first one is a 2018 film. It's pretty recent. Came out last year by three filmmakers: Bob Persichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman.
Okay.
Yeah, and this film is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, that it follows the story of teen Miles Morales, played by Shameik Moore, who becomes Spider-Man of his reality, crossing his path with 5 counterparts, all from other dimensions, to stop the threat of all other realities. So, here's what we got to do. The one scene that I like to focus on is this big wow scene that Morales goes through when he finally realizes that he becomes Spider-Man. He finally gets master of his powers and actually finally crosses over that arc. And it's known as the apotheosis scene, which is when the character finally realizes his complete potential and finally expresses mastery over that potential. And what really makes this scene work very well is the soundtrack. And I wanted to talk about the soundtrack, more specifically the use of the licensed song What's Up Danger by Black Way and Black Caviar.
Speaking of which, how much does it cost to get a song?
I have no idea. How much do you think?
At least it can range from $2 to $5. It depends also on the album, its popularity.
$2 to $5.
Well, I mean, per song, yeah, but album, you're going to spend $10 to $20.
Okay. Well, it's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to get the overall album because sometimes you got to revisit the soundtrack and you'll be like, you know what, I wasn't in the right mood when I listened to this.
No, not the soundtrack itself. I'm saying how much does it cost on a movie production? To buy a certain song that's like popular, like the song that he got.
Millions, because music rights are different than making all the music yourself.
Oh yeah, because it also has to deal with you have to buy 2 different rights: the writer's rights and the music rights.
That's why some TV shows still can't come to home media because they have music rights to deal with.
Yeah.
They're somehow cheaper for syndication versus home media.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
Well, that What's Up Danger scene basically shows Morales' entire identity by becoming into his own character. Okay. And so we're going to branch off on just Morales, but also onto the other Spider-Men in this film. Particularly like Spider-Gwen, who's played by Haley Steinfeld. When she's introduced, they play rock music, mainly because she is shown to be from a rock band. So they play rock when she gets introduced. And then there's Spider-Noir, who's played by Nicolas Cage. They play like this 1940s jazz music that's being played when he's being introduced. And then we got...
Wait, which one was Nicolas Cage? I didn't even know that.
He was Spider-Noir. He was like the black and white guy.
How can you not tell Nicolas Cage? I mean, every character he plays is crazy. I mean, come on.
He's pretty held back in this one. He's like really mellow.
That's why I
kind of like,
him.
Kick-Ass. Restrained there.
So, we also got Penny Parker, who's played by Kamiko Glenn. And she has like this anime techno soundtrack to her when she's introduced and when she's being on screen. And then we also have Spider-Ham, who's played by John Mulaney. Has this styling cartoonist music that's mostly...
Since he's a cartoon.
Yeah. There's this who mostly was, I forgot his name, but Roger Stalling, I believe. Who did most of the composition for Warner Brothers and Looney Tunes. So
Carl Stalling.
Carl Stalling, okay.
Nice.
So it was like that. So, and then we also, most importantly, I think one of the most interesting leitmotifs in this entire this entire film, would be the leitmotif of Prowler. who was played by Mahershala Ali, which is like this distorted elephant noise. It goes like, and it's really cool. And if you want, you can look at it. At Daniel Pemberton's, the music composer for this film's Twitter account, and he'll show you how he made that particular piece.
Do you want to look it up?
Not right now.
Okay.
Well, this is going to go over the time limit we sample.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so there's that whole thing. So, and then also, we also have in the score track of hi-hats, Pemberton mixed in spray can shaking, like that whole thing within the score to infuse Morales' character within the music, so that shows like his personality.
Urban,
yeah. And speaking of urban, it has like it views like this hip hop essentiality within the film. Yeah, and so it's because hip hop basically shows Morales' character as this person from Brooklyn, right? As an African American kid in Brooklyn. Yeah.
Right.
So hip hop is like basically woven within the soundtrack as well as the apotheosis scene, like as before. So like when Morales was introduced, we are introduced with the song "Sunflower" by Post Malone and Sway Lee as an opener. And it's being shown him like listening to it on his headphones and singing along to it, and that shows that it is a part of diegetic music, which means that it's a music within that universe.
Right.
So
it tells the story.
Yeah, it tells the story, and it shows that this is an actual song that exists within that universe. Right off the bat, we know that hip hop is woven within Morales' identity. And it then shifts off to another song called Mi Familia, which is a track to show Morales' Puerto Rican identity as well. So it's like intertwined that he is like half Puerto Rican, half African American, that whole thing. So Pemberton infused the score with What's Up Danger to reconnect to the film's journey. So Morales' journey from being a regular kid to becoming Spider-Man. So that whole thing. And then we have this Destiny leitmotif, which is used when Morales is conflicted or troubled, like when Peter Parker dies and gives him this task to go do this thing to stop the dimensional portal or whatever they call it, and when Peter Parker dies, and when Prowler dies, when he finds out it's his uncle. Spoiler alert. So that whole thing, and so it is. So it's also used like when he was practicing his powers also and failing as well. And so it's also kind of like also used as like a journey motif as these stepping stones as Morales' identity keeps on going through. And then there's this other song on there, this other track called Only One Spider-Man, which is used as like the spider identity leitmotif. And it's used every time a new Spider-Man does that whole backstory thing. And because they believe that they were the only ones until they realize that they're not.
Yeah.
So that's whole thing. And it shows, and it also shows like Morales becoming Spider-Man as well, because it's also him trying to become like this new person. It shows his arc that it's completed. So then there's like this whole musical climax, like when his apotheosis scene, all these music cues are infused together, and it shows that he is like a fully developed person. It's a fully developed character now. And so the film also follows this hero's journey. Are you guys familiar with that?
The stage 1 to A to B from Screenwriting 101, yeah.
Yeah, kind of. It's like
there's some build up.
Old, yeah. So it deals with like a hero doing his regular thing, and then gets called to adventure. Then goes to this unknown world, does his thing, transforms. He returns with the gift, and then returns back to the known world. So this film really follows that whole idea, using hip hop as as a symbol for the known world that Morales is in. Because this is what he knows. This is his identity, and this is familiar to him. And it's used throughout different spots that takes place in Brooklyn.
Right.
And all that. And then there's the spider power motif that I mentioned before, which deals with the unknown. Like Morales finding out all these new powers and these new people, and so he doesn't know what's going on and all that stuff. And then there's the apotheosis scene. We're back to the apotheosis scene, which mixes both known identity and with the unknown. So it mixes that together to know that he is now a fully fledged person. And also the apotheosis scene is also a direct contrast of the practice scene from earlier. So it shows his journey through that. So that's my number one. What do you guys think?
I mean, yeah, you got it down to the T, I would say.
Very big.
So, have you guys watched?
I watched it. I watched it. It was good.
It's
I
good.
liked everything about it, actually.
I mean,
the
it's
story was very good.
It's very much a breakthrough in animation.
It had humor. It had, relativity. Everybody wants to fit in, and everybody, doesn't know that there's a group of other people going through the same thing. So it had a really good story. I liked it, and the music was not bad. Yeah. It was good.
I explained why it's really good and how it works for the story.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I heard it.
And so my next film on the list is a 1961 film made by Jerome Robbins and Robert Wise, and this is West Side Story.
It's a musical.
Yeah, which takes place in 1957 New York City, and it's from the play by Jerome Robbins and the book by Arthur Lawrence. And the music score was composed by one Leonard Bernstein. So, and it's about two youngsters from rival New York City gangs who fall in love, but tensions between their respective friends build toward tragedy, and it also won an Oscar for their music. So, you're ready for this one, because you're going to have to buckle your seatbelts, because we're going to go on a ride into the magical world of film theory.
Okay, great.
There's a lot in here that deals with that. So, have you two seen West Side Story?
It's a wonderful movie. I saw it back in
I
junior
don't
high.
like musicals.
How dare
Not that much. I could barely stand
Even
Grease.
Tenacious D.
Huh?
Even Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny.
Oh, I don't remember watching that movie, but I love Jack Black.
Don't hate on Tenacious D.
No, I don't. I love Jack Black.
Okay, so basically, the first three notes we're experienced is very pivotal for the rest of the film.
Indeed.
And I believe it goes like or something like that.
I wish we could sample it.
Yeah.
Why don't you play it on your phone?
I can't do that right now because we're gonna get striked.
Okay.
So it goes like that. So yeah, and then it goes and it continues going on as the logos come in and as the characters are introduced. And then
Was it like jazz?
Kinda, not really. But as the film goes on, we get introduced our first gang, the Jets, and they get to play their own motif, which is an inversion of the original opening motif. So there's that, and it just basically plays throughout most of it. And we later learned that like the three notes is like supposed to be known as like the hate motif.
Right.
And it's only used when there's like major conflict within the film, and it becomes apparent when it's used when Bernardo, who was played by George Chakiris, who was a member of the Sharks, the rival gang, is introduced.
It's like The Outsiders.
Yeah,
precursor to that.
Is introduced, and then it's used like as a symbol of conflict throughout the rest of the film, and then. As the film goes on, we get introduced to Shrank, who's played by Simon Oakland, who is this, I believe is supposed to be this inspector lieutenant guy. And then he's introduced with the Jets theme, right? And it's supposed to be symbolizing how he has this alignment with the Jets over the Sharks. So that's really interesting. And then we get introduced to the main character of the film, Tony, played by Richard Beymer, right? and he is introduced with silence. There's no song playing, no music. No music is playing.
It's funny you mentioned that. I had another film that I picked that has the music go dead.
Music is dead?
It's playing for a while, then it goes dead in a pivotal scene.
Yeah.
I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, let's do it. So, Tony is introduced with silence, mainly because it symbolizes impartiality with the Jets and the Sharks at this point.
Absolutely. All of them have their own themes, essentially, and it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. But the
Reno
Jets...
Marino is so cute.
But the Jets theme is used when Tony is convinced to go to this dance. So it's to show that he's being brought back into this whole thing.
Right.
Yeah. And then he goes into singing this "Something's Coming" song, which is rearranged from the notes from the hate motif. So listeners of so this is where things get kind of all over the place right here, because then we learn that Bernstein uses the hate motif as like the building block of the entire score of this film. Those three notes are basically rearranged, inverted, all these other places to make other motifs and themes to fit the narrative of the film.
Right.
So now, now we're going into the whole music theory type thing. So this is where things get kind of a little all over the place, because when the listeners of a major score, it needs a resolution. When we listen to a score, we need it to
Resolve.
we need it to resolve.
And this was kind of before they kind of started realizing the rules.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, everyone was following certain formulas for the longest time, but, you know, yeah, musicals and especially movies made by music video crews will definitely be very loose in terms of their narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And this one's no exception. So.
Yeah. So yeah, it needs resolution, and what Bernstein uses for these resolution is tritones, and tritones are the space between octaves. And so Bernstein uses this in Something's Coming on a perfect fourth to show the stability within Tony.
Right.
So right now he is a stable person through the use of the music.
Mm.
Yeah. And then we get introduced to Maria, played by Natalie Wood.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. So Maria is introduced, and she has her own motif.
Maria supposed to be what ethnicity?
Puerto Rican.
And she's played by a Caucasian?
It was a different time.
Okay.
So
Unless they would agree with it. This is what they did.
It was a different time. So Maria also has her own motif, and she uses it as a resolution of the hate motif with the Something's Coming song prior, foreshadowing this resolution. So there's this whole like things are mixing together, and things are like using as a stepping stone to another point in the story.
Mm.
Yeah. And then we go into another song called America.
America. I
Is
want
that-
to be in America.
It goes like, it's that song that goes like, I don't know if you've heard of it. It goes like, na 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 America, na 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 America, na 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 America. So
How have you not heard this?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think I've heard it.
Yeah.
I've never watched the movie.
now
This
this
is Turner Classic.
song does not have the original three notes from the hate motif. They're absent from this particular
They kind of
song.
let the actors do the heavy lifting on this one.
Yeah. Well, it's really because Bernardo and Anita, who's played by Rita Moreno,
Wonderful.
who are singing to each other about what their depiction of America is, and this song has nothing to do with this gang war that's going on. So it could symbolize their separation from the conflict of the story between the gangs. So that's what it could also be used. So take this in contrast with the following song, which, well, actually the following song is called Tonight, which was sung by, who is it? Tony and Maria.
Yeah.
And that song also doesn't have the three notes as well. So that could also represent that they're escaped the conflict, and the conflict is devoid when they're together, or something like that.
I think they're also giving the movie moments to breathe
Yeah.
before they start the next chorus.
Oh yeah, because the next chorus is the Krupke song, where the Jets sing about how dumb Krupke is, and Krupke is a police officer. So, And this song is filled with the Jets motif. It's everywhere. So
Someone has done their homework today.
oh yeah, it is everywhere. So the hate motif is used as like, and also when the Jets and the Sharks meet together at this pub or something.
Right.
I'm not sure if it's a pub, it might be something else. The Jets whistle the 3 notes hate motif as like a warning call.
Foreshadow.
Yeah, it's to foreshadow like there's like this conflict.
So
that
it's
they
not
have.
just a random scene of someone being attacked.
Yeah, and so
That just made me think of the Warriors.
You know, the Warriors is pretty much a non-musical version of
Yeah.
this.
No, but the
Think about it.
whistling did.
yeah, and also since he whistled it, and because he whistled it, this hate motif is now diegetic, so it now exists within their universe.
Yeah.
So, and also they do this
Not
other
singing to
thing.
the audience.
They do this other thing when Shrank comes in, except this time he just straight up whistles like flat whistling, and I think that's also to show how Shrank is aligned with them, so they have no conflict with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that also could be it. And so the Sharks actually don't have a motifs themselves. The Jets have a motif, and it's like rearranged version of the hate motif, but the Sharks, they don't have one.
Okay.
So I believe that this is like also kind of like to show how the Jets are the aggressors in the situation. Like they're the ones being racist towards this Puerto Rican youth gang, and they're just trying to do their thing to survive.
Right.
So that's also what I really like. And so also it goes on to this other song called "I Feel Pretty." Do you guys?
I
you
feel
guys remember that?
pretty.
You hear that? Yeah.
Is that where that comes on?
Yeah, it comes on. Yeah, it's a
Yes.
song that goes, "I feel pretty, I feel
So
pretty,
pretty.
And
witty and gay, and I feel pity for those." Yeah, it goes like that.
I did not know that's where
Yeah,
it was
So
from.
pretty.
That was so pretty.
Now this particular song, this song has no tritones in it. It has no tritones, but has an emphasis on the perfect fourth, symbolizing Tony and Maria as an escape from the conflict. So that's what that song's relevance is with the story, musically wise.
Okay.
And then when Tony comes into play, they do this mock wedding thing, and they just like pretend that they're getting married or whatever. And the song shifts key. Like it starts on B flat major and then it switches to C major, which is musically opposite of each other. And so it also kind of like shows like like alluding to like Maria and Tony coming from 2 different backgrounds and everything.
Right.
So there goes that. And then we move on to the Rumble. Now this is like where the major conflict happens. And so the hate motif is obviously prominent in this area. So they use it when they're about to fight each other, the knife fight, the stabbing, all that kind of thing. And then it goes into this other song called Crazy Boy, which goes like, boy, boy, crazy boy, that whole thing. So it's used with also tritones, even though the Sharks aren't there. So it also symbolizes how they're still wallowed within the conflict, and it also kind of emphasizes that the Jets are the aggressor in this whole situation. And then we go into this further thing where Anita was tasked by Maria to go find Tony and tell her that she is being held by Shrank or whatever. And in order to do that, she has to go meet with the Jets, and the Jets ended up assaulting her. And while she is being assaulted, America plays, but it's a very warped version of it.
I have to rewatch this then.
Yeah.
I don't recall
Oh
that.
wow.
It's a very warped version of America, and showing how
This was pretty much the first gangster movie I ever saw.
really that's interesting.
It got me prepared for this genre.
Yeah. So it is like so the warpedness of that song basically represents how Anita's interpretation of America is being changed during this moment.
Right.
But don't worry, like the owner of the shop comes in and stops anything from happening. So she
Oh.
gets saved.
Okay. I was about to say, those assholes.
Oh yeah,
The Jets.
they boo the Jets. And then at the end, spoiler alert, Tony dies.
Oh.
So
Oh
So
no,
Tony
this
dies.
is a spoiler for a man who hasn't seen this in
What?
almost 10 years.
I haven't seen it.
it's on Netflix if you want to watch it.
Really?
Is it on Netflix?
Yeah, it is on Netflix.
Okay, I'll watch
Got no
it.
excuse.
I'll watch it.
So, okay, what was it? Oh yeah, Tony dies. So Tony dies in Maria's arms, and so Maria tries to sing a song somewhere, which was sung earlier in the film. That also has some stuff in it, but I didn't want to talk about it. So
We got 200 people come from.
yeah, so yeah, also Maria and Anita did this duet thing, and there was also some stuff there, but I skipped that too. So okay, so Maria is trying to sing the song somewhere with Tony, but Tony
It's dead.
is dying, so he couldn't sing, so she's singing it alone. So it even shows how the score can't even keep them together. The score itself can't keep them together. And so the finale has this scale that never resolves, contrasting with the Sharks and the Jets finally coming together to help move Tony's body away from the scene. And then the score proceeds to mock Maria with a tritone that never resolves and never comes together, showing how the movie does not have a happy ending and only the hate survives. So that's how.
Wow, so it's not a happy ending movie.
Oh no, because it's
It has its uplifting moments, but it uses that to get you into the real world.
It's
Versus Escape to Neverland, and then you
Well-
got the out of place ending. You know, it's
Yeah.
all in place. It was meant to be. It's a musical
Yeah,
turned
Okay.
movie musical.
It's loosely based on Romeo and Juliet, which was also a tragedy.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
why it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds just like it when you said rival gangs. Like,
Yeah. So Bernstein really uses the music within the story to complement the story and has these strict ideas of how the story's going to go through the music. So
yeah, that's awesome.
that's the whole thing. So what do you guys think about West Side Story and everything?
I think
It
it's
sounds
wonderful to have on
good.
your list. I mean, because
I'm
I
gonna
don't
watch
hear
it.
that being brought up by today's millennials, you know. So it's
No, definitely not.
that's great.
It's a good movie. You should check it out.
Yeah, I will check it out.
I've been meaning to rewatch it. So
I know Spielberg's trying to remake it, but I don't know.
Yeah, they are. I actually
I think you
was
can pull it
going
off.
to what do you call it? I was gonna submit to one of the roles, but it was like you must have good experience singing and dancing, and I'm like, yeah.
Where you're gonna be Maria?
No, not Maria.
Anita?
I was probably gonna be one of the
Who
dancers.
sings America?
No, just one of the dancers. Well, do they show any other actors other than the main
They're
characters?
probably
singing?
going to update it a bit.
No, there's other people there.
I wonder.
That
I
sing?
wonder if we'll get
That
Rita
have
Moreno.
camera time?
But yeah.
I wonder if we'll have Rita Moreno have a do a cameo in it. That'd be funny.
I wonder, but I've heard of Anita Moreno. Like I've definitely love her. So,
The ghost
but I
of
had not
Natalie Wood.
seen
Yep.
West Side Story. So
There we go.
They never solved that murder.
what murder?
Natalie Wood, the person who started this film, was
I'm not
murdered
gonna even get
mysteriously.
started on that.
I
I think in
Maria,
honest to
the
God,
one who played Maria,
Yeah.
she got killed
Yeah, mysteriously. We
I
don't
can
know.
after the film.
Yeah.
I can see it either being a drunken accident or just she flat
Well,
out.
what
just
did they
fell
say
off.
happened?
There's conflicting accounts. She was on the same yacht that her husband Robert Wagner was on, and their friend Christopher Walken was also sleeping there. And
Yeah, but he's like
he was walking on water.
But
I love
Walken,
him.
Walken was the most innocent
I love
out of
Christopher
everybody.
Walken.
He
Everybody
was suspicious
believes-
at first because he got lawyered up at first, and I was like, "Whoa, what's he got to hide?" And he's like, "Nah, I think he just doesn't want anyone just
Yeah.
blowing it out of proportion."
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I know very recently the yacht driver came out and told his side of the story, but I don't know if it was any closer to solving anything.
Man.
But a lot of
it's just
people-
like the Tupac and Biggie murders.
Tupac is in witness protection, and
Is he?
you haven't heard that?
No.
But he's dead.
They faked his death.
We're going into conspiracies now. We're not,
Okay,
we're not doing
Ruby, what do you have as your top sound?
Wait,
Are
no,
you
I'm not
done?
done. I'm
You're
not
not
done.
Dave
yet.
is
done?
I only
not
did
done.
2 films.
How many films do you have?
Well, this was the only musical. So I'm gonna move on to
Okay.
the next film, which is a 2009 film by Zachary Snyder, and it is
Dawn of the Dead.
Watchmen.
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 Riggs.
So it takes place in 1984 New York City, and it's from the graphic novel by Alan Moore.
Okay.
And the music was scored by one Tyler Bates.
Yes.
And if those of you don't know, it takes place in, it was not 1984, it was 1985, where former superheroes exist. The murder of a colleague sends an active vigilante, Rorschach, played by Jackie Earl Haley.
Good actor.
Yeah. Into his own sprawling investigation, uncovering something that could completely change the course of history as we know it. And I want to mostly focus on the character of Mr. Manhattan, played by Billy Crudup.
Blue penis.
Yeah. Because this film, it has no main character, so therefore it has no main theme.
No.
So, because the Watchmen never really come together and be the Watchmen, so they can't have this group theme like the Avengers or anything.
Zack Snyder's better at style versus substance.
Oh, yeah. So what Bates did, and especially with Mr. Manhattan, because he's this omnipotent being who is ambiguous to good and evil, and he has this sense of timelessness because he experiences the past, present, and the future simultaneously. So how can you represent a character like that musically?
It's pretty much up to the composer.
Yeah, and Tyler Bates had the same question, the composer. And so what he ended up coming up with was this idea of minimalist music.
Yeah.
So the idea of it...
What's there is there, what isn't.
Yeah. So basically he took information from an experimental film called The Prophecies, which was scored by one Philip Glass, who was a big spearhead in this minimalistic style of music.
He's on my list.
Yeah. So... So minimalism in music is really just removing what is unessential and only using what you need. And that's also used in other types of minimalist pieces of art, minimalist filmmaking, minimalist painting, blah, 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 all that. And it's the same for music. So the minimalism is mostly about the process rather than the resolution. So... like the music in most scores has like this pathway. It's direct and has like a beginning and a middle, and then it resolves at the end. Minimalism is mostly not about the destination. It's about the journey, and the journey can go on forever. So it can just repeat over and over and over again, and it'll go on forever if you want, if you have the energy and the stamina to do it. But that's what Bates decided to use, because the minimalism basically shows like this timelessness within music, because it can go on forever, and if you wanted it to. And so it's great to use that to represent the character of Mr. Manhattan. Yeah. Because he also has this idea of timelessness within him. So, and also Manhattan also wants to escape from the complications of humanity. Because now he thinks he's like above mankind, and mankind's troubles are very troubling and minimal to him. So what he does is that, and because of this, he's the only superhero who has his own theme in this entire film.
I forgot about that.
Though, I don't know, because
I mainly remember the theme during the prison fight.
Yeah.
Because that's the one that gets repeated.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because Rorschach kind of has one, kind of-ish. But we're mostly going to talk about Manhattan for this one. Because he's the only superhero in the entire film that has actual powers. Everybody else is like a Batman type. Yeah. Rich person. Vigilante. Yeah. Like Nighthawk is just a rich guy. Rorschach is just a guy who wears a mask, and he's a detective, I guess, too. Yeah. And that's about it.
Just figured.
Yeah, so that's why I believe it's appropriate that only Manhattan is the only person who has a theme. Yeah, a theme. And also, when Manhattan is introduced his backstory, he was stripped from all of his particles, and so he had to reassemble himself later using only what he needed, i.e., like the minimalism part. So that's why minimalism is probably the only way that a person could score a character like Manhattan. And oddly enough, Manhattan was the birthplace of minimalism in music. So that's also funny there. So what do you guys think about...
Fun fact!
Well, yeah, so what do you guys think about the use of minimalism in music?
I'm all for it, because I think, just like we talked 2 episodes ago about how mood and tone are all over the place, I think music is definitely a key factor that can kill your movie or make it better.
Oh, yes.
It's nothing worse when it pisses me off all the time when I see someone's, dying and then the music is just too, sappy, or it's patriotic, but then the patriotic music is too heavy-handed. Is like, it just took me out of it. I'm just seeing another rehash of old cliches.
So do you?
And I think it went really well with his character, like you said, because everything was minimal. Even though he himself is a grand being, all the other key parts about his characteristics, everything was minimal. So
Tyler Bates would later go on to score the John Wick movies, and he does a wonderful job there.
Oh, John Wick! I can't wait to see the.
Also, Manhattan's has the symbol of hydrogen on his head, which is the very first element.
That's true. Science.
Also, So, do you prefer like simplicity in music over complexity?
I actually compiled my list of soundtracks based off of the soundtracks that I would go out to the store and buy. And I would go out and listen to it over and over and over again.
Well, and just how powerful they are.
Well, it's the type of music, like, of course I'm going to always pay attention to the music and movies. Like, I always do that. And I'm like, oh, it has a really good theme and all of that good stuff. But I wouldn't buy it to listen to it. And so that's how I compiled my list of favorite soundtracks. Because these are like soundtracks that I owned because they were so good to me. Because of the kind of music that it had.
But not so much the idea of how the film fits in with the narrative. The music.
The music, I'll tell you how it fits in with the narrative, obviously.
And like it's music.
But it's music that I actually go out to buy and listen to. Like, I wouldn't buy the soundtrack to Watchmen and be listening to it.
Okay. All right, so you can watch The Watchmen now on Netflix as at the time of recording.
Okay.
So
all right.
it is a very odd film. It's very Snydery. So if you're not a fan of Batman vs Superman or Man of Steel, then probably it wouldn't be for you.
Yeah.
But if you're a fan of those two films, then
also,
go for it.
if you're a guy and you just want to see hot girls do hot stuff in like hot looking costumes,
I wasn't crazy
you'll
about
watch it.
So okay, I'm a guy.
So moving on. Next one deals with a 2018 film, another 2018 film from last year, by one American filmmaker by the name of Ryan Coogler. And so this film it is Black Panther.
Oh yeah, I like that one actually, but I didn't go buy it.
And it
was
is
explicit.
But that Kendrick Lamar song, I love that one.
So it is from the comics by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby.
The Weeknd.
Yeah, and it is and the music was scored by one Ludwig Göransson. And so for those who don't know, it is about the character of T'Challa, aka Black Panther, played by Chadwick Boseman, who is the heir to a hidden but advanced kingdom of Wakanda, must step forward to lead his people into a new future and must confront a challenger from his country's past. So that is basically the main crux of the film. So,
but I do love that like they had such a good score that went with the African theme.
Yeah.
Like, but it still felt like something, like it made you like really feel it, like inside of you. Like you were like, man, this feels like so authentic, you know?
Because this film won an Oscar for best film. Music
For best music.
for this score. And what's really good is because Coogler and Göransson has like this really tight, good relationship because they met each other in film school, and they continued doing films together as
I
their
remember
career went
seeing
on.
that interview. It's cool.
Which is really good.
They worked together on Fruitvale Station.
Yeah, they worked on each other in Fruitvale Station. I don't know if they worked together on Creed.
I think it was someone else because they had to get the classic soundtrack there.
Okay. But their relationship really helped with the foundation of composing the score for this film because the relationship between the director and the music composer is very important. Especially when finding what you need to complement the film with the music.
It angers me all the time when I see a producer recuts the movie with his own hired guns.
Yeah.
It's clearly not in the director's or writer's forte.
Yeah. And so Coogler and Göransson has like this really good style to them that definitely sets them up to succeed, especially in something as expansive and as big as Black Panther. So going on is that he also had like this extensive research within African music. So, oh no, the battery died.
No.
Still red.
Yeah, the light died, but whatever. Okay, so
No lights.
so
There are 4 lights.
he studied really a lot from African music and talking to African musicians in order to do research to composing the score for this film.
Well, he would have had to, yeah.
And so we're going to be talking about particularly Black Panther's theme, which composes of 3 different instruments. One, the talking drum, the brass, and the 808. Now, if you don't know what an 808 is, you guys know what an 808 is?
No, what is it?
An 808 is like one of those electronic drums that is used within hip hop music. That goes like
Oh, okay.
like that kind of thing. So
Yeah, because I've heard them mention it in rap songs.
yeah, so it was only around for 3 years, but it revolutionized the hip hop scene, and it was very quintessential in it. And it was basically used in this film to complement Black Panther's theme. So it shows like the relationship between like that whole new and old traditional thing,
Right, together.
with the talking drum and the 808. And at the very end, there's this whole talking drum that says,
Sorry.
"Are you okay?"
My gum.
That the talking drum says basically T'Challa's name. It goes like whenever Black Panther comes on, and so that I thought was really, really cool. So, and also there's the brass that invokes the theme of a royalty, because Black Panther is a kunkami or a king, also in this film.
It's good to be the king.
Yeah. So, and then we also go on to Killmonger.
T'Challa.
We go on to Killmonger, played by Michael B. Jordan. And so it basically has a couple other aspects to it. Mostly like a string musical instrumental that is influenced by Bach. And it's supposed to show his intellect.
Intelligence.
Yeah. It's supposed to show his intelligence. Along with hula flute, and also his own take on 808.
Right.
Now the 808 is mostly prominent on his side because he's an African American, so it would make sense. And then because of this, Black Panther and Killmonger has a connection with the themes with traditional African music and hip hop influences.
Right.
So so Göransson mostly uses like hip hop within most of his scores. I don't know if it's just him or his interpretation with the characters, because it goes on. Also, when they move on to Basan, he starts playing like Korean rap in there too.
Because
So
that's where they are, so
yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
yeah. So then again, also the music has European components, like with that brass, and it's supposed to be associated with like European royalty, and it's like also used as like a superhero type thing. You hear it a lot, like especially in Superman, and the 1970s Superman is mostly used there. So it also is used now here in Black Panther. So, and then it kind of also has that kind of also that European feel, but it also mostly has that African feel with this kind of like this song poetry thing going on, singing, where like a traditional African singer would sing about an elephant dying in Dahosa. What?
Wow.
I didn't know that.
It was that's how the language is called. It's called Dahosa.
Tulsa.
Don't laugh at somebody else's language.
It's
Racist,
just funny
really.
the way that you're saying it.
How I say it? That's how
Because
I
you
say
didn't
it.
even introduce it the right way, but like their language is like this. Like
It's like Dahosa.
yeah.
That's what it's called.
I really just thought you were having a tick or something.
No, it's called Dahosa. So yeah, he sings in that language about, and the elephant is dying, symbolizing a king dying. And so, because at the beginning of the film, we learned that the king passed away in that terrorist attack by crossbones in Civil War. And now T'Challa has to come in and help that whole thing out. So, and also there's like this major brass, that European brass is shown. Every time the Black Panther's dad, the original king, is on screen, like when he goes into like this afterworld type thing, and he meets them. And the brass is like super high.
The eternal plane.
The eternal plane, right? And so the brass is very prominent in there. So it therefore becomes like the king's motif. And so it's also shown when Black Panther is fighting M'Baku, who's played by Winston Duke.
It's funny. I forgot his name was M'Baku because there was this other terrorist on another show I'll mention later called M'Baku.
Okay. And so
bring them to me.
So when Black Panther is winning the fight over M'Baku, the brass is playing, showing how that he's fighting for the throne to become king. And then it is kind of like that. And then it is also shown again when Black Panther is being crowned. And then when we're introduced to Killmonger, because he's being introduced like in the British Museum. So they introduce like the strings first, and then they go into 808s, and then they go in with the Fula flute with the whole music theme, the entire leitmotif. And it's pretty cool to listen to. So they do that, and they do it in the heist scene, and then also again in the court scene where he reveals his true identity and all that, and it also kind of shows how he has like this. He planned this whole thing. It was meticulous and and he's very
the Black Panther identity,
and he's very cunning in it. So
he was very cunning.
Yeah,
this is where it becomes a spy movie.
Yeah, and so when Killmonger and Black Panther are fighting on the waterfall, the Fula flute starts playing the king's motif, which shows how he's now the king now, and that he has like this new interpretation of what throne is and what a different reality of what the king should be. And so the instrumentation is moving with the conflict on screen, so because it shifts from Black Panther's theme when he's winning, and then it shifts to Killmonger's theme when he's winning, so it goes kind of like that. And then when Killmonger is like now ruling over Wakanda, his theme is all over the place because he's now the one in charge. But then it kind of shifts to, again with the king's motif when Black Panther returns, and this time it has vocals now, which shows how Black Panther completes his arc, and now he is now ready to become king.
Because it's the complete song.
Yeah, and so it is like, because it also kind of like it's the only time vocals are used within that theme, and it's kind of also to contrast that whole singing thing about the music in Osa. So there's that. So that's how it kind of was in that film. What do you guys think?
I love that film. That film, my kids love it too. Every single time, they always want to be yelling "Wakanda, Wakanda forever." They'll go around the house saying that, hitting each other while they're doing it. But
I felt like it was culturally relevant. I'm glad you got that because I did not get that.
I did love the music. Like I said, that was one of the first things that captivated my attention as soon as the movie started.
You're kidding.
I loved it.
Not even Star Wars.
Yeah.
Star Wars, you know it's Star Wars. You know it's coming.
Yeah. So I'm kind of. So that's it about Black Panther. So
yeah, cool.
So we're gonna move from Africa, and then we're gonna move to Mexico.
And then are you gonna let us finally go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe. Because I got a couple more.
This is just Nate's show today.
No, it's not.
We can do a two-parter if you want.
Okay, so and then we're gonna talk up to. Okay, so this next film is called made by the filmmaker Lee Unkrich in 2017, called Coco.
Oh, okay.
The gorilla.
It's the kid one, right?
Yeah, but
it's an animated one.
Yeah.
You haven't seen Coco?
I don't watch cartoons.
Yeah. Coco was good, but
it's great.
Again, I would not go by the soundtrack.
Okay, so the next film is about an aspiring musician, Miguel, played by Anthony Gonzalez, who is confronted with his family's ancestral ban on music and enters the land of the dead to find his great-great-great-grandfather, who is a legendary singer played by Benjamin Bratt.
I love him.
Mm-hmm.
Good actor.
Yeah, and so basically I want to talk mostly about the final climactic scene where, have you seen the film?
Yes.
Where Coco regains her memory, and Miguel sings the "Remember Me" song, and so it kind of feels like, oh snap! His song cured her dementia. Yay! The day is saved.
Yes.
Music cured dementia.
Yeah.
But it actually has kind of a lot of music science to it because it deals with this whole idea of music therapy, right? And I shall explain it to you right now.
Okay.
So, in order to for it to work, a patient must bypass a patient's weaker memory by using the emotional center. So, and also because the hippocampus degrades first, and then the amygdala, and it has the amygdala which interprets emotions, right?
Okay.
So, the
You
amygdala.
did like brain research?
Yeah, I went to neurology.
Okay, neurology.
Yeah, so the amygdala is the thing that deals with like emotions, and that also ties in with the memories. Like, I'm gonna punch you, boom, I punched you, and that made you feel bad. And so now your amygdala now associates me punching you with badness, and now you don't like me anymore.
Okay.
So that's what it is. That's what that means. So, so that's what that's about. But people can compensate for weaker memory by using their emotions through music. So instead of going through the hippocampus, people can go through the amygdala and trigger memories that way through
Because you
music.
remember how you feel
Mhm.
whenever you heard a certain.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, so a patient could regain memories just like Coco did through a happy emotional connection when she heard the song "Remember Me" that her father sang and how good it made her feel. So that caused her to regain the memories of her father and able to speak again. So that's what that's about. And so we're also moving into like Miguel and how he's establishing his love for mariachi music because his brain is still developing. Because he's like a teenager, he's like 12 or 13 at this
No,
point.
I thought he was younger than
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, so it really tells a story, or is it just stylish, or is it just keep elevating
Yeah, it
based
can-
on each
Yeah,
stage?
yeah, because it definitely improves that whole idea of like music therapy and how music can definitely
It's
help
an
out.
educational movie.
Yeah, and so Miguel gains this love for mariachi music because since his family has like a ban on it, the only type of music he can find is the music around him. The only music around him is mariachi music. So now he's like really starting to like really into it, and because teenagers have this whole chaotic thing with their reward receptors, which means that your brain will release this chemical called dopamine every time you do something good. Like every time I drink Dr. Pepper.
Dope.
I drink the Dr. Pepper, and my
Even
brain.
though it's bad for your health.
Yeah, and my brain just releases dopamine, saying, "Wow, that's good. I'm gonna make the rest of my brain feel good." Therefore,
but my organs will shut down
Yeah.
later because of it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Is Cody calling you?
Yeah,
We're in the middle of recording,
just gonna have to wait.
so there's that. So
And also, kids just like to rebel against what their, family members say. I
Now,
mean, that's just a thing.
yeah, because of that, children seem to have, because their brains aren't developed, their dopamine levels are very, very low. So in order to get some dopamine response, they would have to do something really crazy in order to get that release. And so every time, that's why like teenagers go out and do like drugs and drink underage or whatever. So that's why you shouldn't do that.
Don't do what?
The
Don't
drugs.
don't drink and drive.
Yeah.
Definitely don't
Yeah.
drink and
And
drive.
that's why when you do a little of the doobie, it makes you feel good. That's your dopamine levels being released. That's why you like it.
No, I think that's more like endorphins.
Ah, okay. So anyway, so yeah, that's what that's about. And so now Miguel's having this entire dopamine response with mariachi music, which means he's gained this love for mariachi music. And so now studies have shown that people prefer music they listen to as a teenager. So do you think that holds true with you guys?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely still love rock music. I mean, that's
Well, and I
some of the
mean-
soundtracks that I have right now on my list. I started listening to heavy rock when I was in my teenage years, middle school, I would say, and I still love it today. So, yeah. I mean, I love more other music as well. Like I've discovered more music But
based on
yet
how
I would
mature the
always
music
like,
is,
yeah.
determines your maturity, what you think sounds good, other people don't, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the older you get, the more you realize, wow, why did I even like
The
that
one
music?
type of music that I've never, ever, ever,
Uh-huh.
and I don't think that's ever going to change for me, I cannot stand listening to country music.
That's fine.
It seems like a lot of people don't like it.
That just like makes me want to.
Well, the thing is, it's just very preachy. Nothing against people who like it. I just...
Oh yeah, no, nothing against people that like it. Like God bless y'all, but
Have you ever heard that new song by Lil Nas X?
yeah, that Home
and,
Again
and Billy
or
Ray
something
Cyrus?
like
that was
that.
so.
I was like, what is going on?
I haven't heard that. I did see how that's where... What's his name from Hootie and the Blowfish is now performing country. And I'm like, Hootie, you're so talented. Just why don't you come back to the Blowfish?
Yeah, and it's like, what was it called? Getting down, singing like a rock star. Just spent my money on a brand new guitar.
Something about horses in the back or something too. Like I got horses in the back.
Anybody who wants to find a very funny parody of that song, watch Live Love Serves video on the topic. It is really funny.
Let's not and say we did.
Yeah, it's really good though. It's really funny. So yeah, that's about. What about you, Cam? Do you
Coco.
still enjoy music that you listen to when you were a
I
teenager?
always find that there's something new to find. I just keep buying soundtracks from eBay, and I don't let the radio tell me what to do unless it's KXT, which provides a healthy alternative between older and some recent independent works.
Oh yeah, you're more open-minded.
Maggie
That's
Rogers
really good.
and Shara Joff perform a lot here, and they're just wonderful up-and-comers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're more open to like variety.
You got to, because I mean, the least you can do is not deny yourself so many other
Yeah,
pleasures.
there's so much music.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Like, I
I do
mean,
that.
Spotify is providing a healthy alternative. It's like everyone's like, I don't want to buy it. It's like, well, you can still listen to music because music is been proven to be healthy for the brain.
Yes,
Mhm.
I totally agree with that.
So yeah, and I do the same thing with hip hop because when I was a teenager, I listened to a lot of Drake and Lil Wayne and Eminem. And
You were
So you got
teen when
these gold
Drake came out?
I
chains.
guess, huh?
You're gonna be like Biggie and Tupac.
Except hopefully without being the murdered part.
Yeah.
So, alas, my list must come to an end. Am I right,
I never
Ruby?
thought it would happen.
Yeah.
You and your complaining.
We are bitching here.
Oh, and you can watch
But
Coco
we're
Netflix.
we're gonna be thankful for Nate because for Nate
Nate
because without
has been-
Nate we would not have all of this knowledge that we just learned. That we
He
just
kept reminding me
soaked up.
about the music rules.
We
that I
learned
totally
about
forgot.
science and neurology
Mhm.
and film theory.
Yeah, and film,
Yeah.
music therapy. There you go.
Yeah, music
And
therapy.
so, the final the film I will leave you with today
Okay.
is a Patty Jenkins film made in 2017,
Junkie Axel.
Which one?
Wonder Woman,
Oh yeah, nice.
which takes place in 1918.
In different times?
No, just 1918.
Just 1918.
Well,
They didn't go back and forth.
No, it started off in
World
modern day in
Yeah.
2017, and she's like, "Oh, look at this picture," and reminisce for an hour and a half, and then and then it goes back.
In a world.
And then it is based on the comics by one William Marston,
Yes.
who also invented the lie detector test. I bet you didn't know that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, there's an entire movie about it called Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman. I suggest you check it out. It's a good film.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
That's where they
the-
showed about that.
The
Mhm.
philosophical
I wanted to
threesome
see it
movie.
just because
Yeah.
it looked like it was kinky.
50
fun.
Shades of
That's
shit.
where Wonder
Yeah.
Woman comes from. It comes from that.
50 Shades of
Wow.
shit. There you go.
Oh, no. So, and the music was made by one Rupert Gregson Williams, and it is about
Related to
when-
Harry, right? He's
Yeah.
the son.
Oh yeah, I think so.
I think so.
But so it is about when a pilot played by Chris Pine crashes crashes
Kirk.
and tells of a conflict in the outside world, which is World War One. And Diana, played by Gal Gadot, an Amazonian warrior in training,
The
leaves her
most-
home to fight a war, discovering her full powers and her true identity.
The
Blah,
most
blah, blah,
listed
blah.
after Israeli celeb.
Yeah. Wasn't paying attention. What did you say?
The most
He said
listed after
the most
Israeli
lusted
celeb.
after Israeli.
I guess.
I
think of any
can't
other
go one
Israeli.
conversation without one guy just going, oh, she's
She's
hot.
She is a very beautiful
Along with
young
She's a
Scarlett
lady.
very beautiful lady.
She is a very beautiful lady, yes. What?
Nate is such a gentleman.
Thank
I'm not
you.
attracted, but that's
I
okay.
am very much a gentleman. So anyway, so the music, music. We're talking about music. Music. So music needs to show what a character represents.
Otherwise, you're redundant and you should quit your day job.
Oh, what? You should quit your day job?
If you can't compose a score,
You mean keep your day job?
no, you
Yeah.
should quit your day job.
Music score is your day job? Is
If that's your
usually a
day
night
job, you should quit it.
Okay. Jeez.
A score's got to be good. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
the bottom
bottom
line.
line.
Yeah. So, Wonder Woman, basically, also throughout the film, she realizes like the duality of man and how men
all men
are.
are evil.
Yeah. All men have this good and bad within
Fuck you
them.
guys.
Like how.
You suck.
Well, don't they teach him the whole way that she's brought up is to always fear, you know.
Yeah. Well, she was brought up that men are bad. Bad.
bad,
But
bad.
Trevor, who was played by Chris Pine, the pilot, he basically teaches Wonder Woman that men do bad things, but they're also capable of a lot of good. So there's that whole duality of, what are you doing?
And meanwhile, she's mentored by the Emperor's sister from Gladiator and Jenai from Forrest Gump.
Jenai! Was that her? That was
That
her.
was her.
Oh my god.
So
Mrs. House of Cards.
Anytime I hear that name, I just have to say Jenai. Like,
Kudos if anyone put Forrest Gump on their top soundtracks.
that was a good one too. So
Ugh.
So most of the film, Wonder Woman is not Wonder Woman yet. She's just Diana Themyscira
Right.
going on to try to beat Ares, played by David Thewlis, something like that.
Maximus
I
Desmeridius
don't remember.
as a woman.
David Thewlis played Lupin in the Harry Potter movies. I don't remember. I can't pronounce his name. So so he played by him, and so she kind of doesn't really have a score to represent her.
It takes a while to build up.
So
especially
what
this-
Gregson Williams does is he does what John Williams did in Star Wars.
Yes.
So what Williams did was he didn't do characters, he did ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what
World
Gregson
building.
Williams had to do in this film. So the score needs to represent the ideas that Wonder Woman had and not directly Wonder Woman herself. So, and we also kind of, since this was part of the DCEU, it kind of messes it up in Batman versus Superman when Zack Snyder told Hans Zimmer to make a theme for Wonder Woman. And in that film, she doesn't have that much of a character. She doesn't really do much. So
It's an after-school special.
Well,
as a guest star.
that's maybe why they had to give her that, so
Maybe.
that they gave her some kind of a present.
yeah, but also it kind of doesn't really give Zimmer much to work with because I mean, what is she as composer?
Yeah, let's look at it this way. Every movie's got to stand on its own sequel or spin-off. So
That's
if
true.
he just said,
He
I'm
was
gonna
trying to
start
do
from
it,
scratch.
Yeah, that would be good if that particular theme didn't become super popular. And everybody associated it with Wonder Woman after that.
Yeah.
That reminds me of the Star Trek arena fight music. Oldies know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Is it the one that comes on Cable Guy?
Yes!
That's the one that I love.
I love
It's
that.
like, I love that scene. Sorry.
So when Zimmer was composing the score for the theme
That's a
for
good
Wonder
soundtrack, by the
Woman,
way.
he kind of got a little bit of a block because most superhero scores are mostly masculine in nature with the brass, and that's not his fault. It's not our fault. It's society's fault.
Society.
That was like because most of the heroes that we had in our past were mostly male dominated. Wouldn't you agree with me?
Yes.
And
Yes.
because of that,
They were.
and because of that, superheroes, mostly like in the Black Panther one, has this brassness to it, and it's a very masculine
Wakanda's
form,
cool.
or at least what we associate with masculinity.
Which again, blame it on society.
Mhm.
Thanks, society.
Yeah, and
Hi, society.
because of that, Zimmer was kind of blocked because one, he could have just did the whole brass thing with Wonder Woman and did that, but he was afraid that people would complain about it because they were afraid that they're gonna portray Wonder Woman as a superhero by emasculating her and not making her own
Not
identity as a
leaving
woman.
her as a woman.
So what he ended up doing was he ended up going with a completely different instrument called the electric cello, and that's what made this that whole theme that we hear called.
There you go.
Which is also very prominent in Ragnarok, the Thor film.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They had to try and contest with that.
Yeah. So
It's always a rivalry between these two.
so when Gregson Williams got his hands on the score for Wonder Woman, he's kind of stuck because now he has to use this theme that had nothing to do with Wonder Woman kind of ish. It's just because Wonder Woman is just standing around doing stuff, but it's not her as a character. So now, but he can't not use it because
Right.
that's her theme now, and everybody associates it with her. So he has to infuse it somehow without making it too jarring, and using it for the rest of the film. So what he ended up doing is that he tries to mesh the electric cello with other scores throughout the film, like how he uses the electric cello in the beginning as like that, and so he uses the electric cello to smooth listeners into like the actual use of the theme.
Yeah.
And so she straight up uses that theme as in like various spots, like when Wonder Woman is like fighting the German general guy, and yeah,
She keeps it from being another Indiana Jones parody and actually being serious. I will give her that.
yeah. And there's also this other score that Hans Zimmer made called "Is She With You," which is another song from that show. And then Gregson Williams takes pieces of that and uses it and infuses it with the theme for Wonder Woman to represent her. But we got to remember that Wonder Woman is not Wonder Woman yet. She's still just Diana.
She's but a child. In whatever years that is for her.
So he uses like that new music to introduce the Themyscira, like the island, and he uses it uses it as like a bridge for when Diana becomes Wonder Woman and she finally realizes what she's fighting for. And with that whole, it's not about deserve, it's about what you believe.
It's when she becomes the chosen one.
What?
Every hero's journey is becoming the chosen one. Neo becomes the one. Luke becomes the one.
There was only one.
Strider becomes the king.
So it was really unfortunate because Diana does not have a theme because her representation is so all over the place.
Yeah.
So we don't get to hear her become Wonder Woman. We only get to see her become Wonder Woman, and that's kind of disappointing and kind of like a loss of potential. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. They should have.
I think they were too worried about making everybody happy. Music can be on the side for now.
Yeah. And the
We got
last,
Captain Kirk and Diana.
that is done. That is
Yay!
a week's worth. Yay!
All right,
That's the end of the show, everybody.
No,
Thanks for coming.
No, it's not. You
You're
still
so
got
mean.
you still got quite a bit of time left.
You better have contributions.
Yeah, 'cause
Oh, I do.
I studied
I
like
do
an
have
entire week.
Yeah,
on it.
otherwise we are assholes for him to go on that long and not
I'm
have anything to
So
compete.
tired of talking.
Oh wait, well I don't have like statistics or
Just
years that it was made, but
sum it
we're
up.
gonna go into my list. Like I said, my list was compiled mainly of things that I actually would go out and buy and listen to. So my number one is Queen of the Damned. You have seen that movie? You've seen it?
Yep.
I have not
Fun
seen
fact, the director later went on to direct various episodes of the hit show Battlestar Galactica.
Oh.
His music videos, visuals really complement the proceedings as well as the Smashing Pumpkins and Disturbed lyrics.
Yeah, so see, there goes some contribution right there. But Queen of the Damned,
Say what you will about the movie. It's just a music video.
Yeah.
It's not a movie.
Like the movie, first of all, it drew me because I just love vampires. I love vampires. I've always had an obsession with vampires ever since I saw Bram Stoker's Dracula when I was 11. Like ever since then. So of course I was gonna see it. You know, of course also because Aaliyah is in it, which does a damn good job playing Akasha. Like I love her. in that
Nice.
movie. She looks so beautiful. R.I.P.
This was around the same time where she not only prematurely died, but she was supposed to play Niobe, Jada Pinkett's character in the Matrix sequels.
Yep, she was. She had a lot of work lined up, but
Could have been another cool rapper turned actress.
yeah. But the soundtrack I love so much because they had so many people collab on this. Like they had Chester from Linkin Park. They had
Yes,
Jonathan Davis.
Another guy passed away
That passed
prematurely.
away. Yes, he was
We love you, Chester.
amazing.
I don't care what
Yes.
anyone else says.
I love Chester.
I grew up with his music.
His voice is just
I
like,
will admit that's what got me into new metal.
yeah.
Everybody else was just like, it's noise.
Well-
It's like, no, well, there's some heart in this. I'm
yeah, that
actually
was
kinda feeling
the
like I
new
can-
kind of stuff.
Mm.
Because they also had Jonathan Davis, the lead singer of Korn, which is another one of my favorite bands.
Have you ever listened to that one collaboration that Korn did with Biggie?
Oh my god.
I don't know.
The notorious Korn.
Maybe.
Big.
It's a good song.
I know the one that they did with Limp Bizkit, with with
Break
the
stuff.
Richter.
No, I'm joking.
Limp
That's-
Bizkit's fine, they ain't no Biggie.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying I haven't heard the one of Biggie. I haven't heard the one of Biggie. Is what I'm
Look
saying.
it up.
I will. So
Do
it
the
had,
copyright.
and the
Not sure.
teenage. So that's where this comes into play. Like I listened to
Oh.
Korn when I was a teenager,
Yeah.
and I will always love them. And they're still fucking making music and touring, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also got Marilyn Manson involved, of course. The freaking
Yeah.
Son of
Starfuckers
Evil.
Incorporated. That's what
And
it is.
also the lead singer from Disturbed. What's his name?
I don't know. Actually.
David Draydel.
Van
Is
Gogh?
it?
Is it?
And he performs in Dallas here quite a lot, so be on the lookout because I missed his last concert.
Yeah. So all of those powerful voices and the old school kind of it's old school now. It's like 90s hard rock, right? So
Good shit.
they made great music, not just because of their voices, but it went with the whole brooding, gory, freaking Edgar Allan Poe kind of
Gothic,
you know?
yes.
It was
Gothic horror.
gothic, and I loved it.
There's a
Another
bit of
thing-
Hammer horror vibes in there.
Yeah, it was just so amazing, and it's one of the best soundtracks. I would tell you to have sex to.
Oh, wow.
Do it.
Wow.
It was awesome.
Did you do that?
Yes, I did it a lot of times.
Oh my god.
Next
Shit.
movie.
I think your husband's home.
You
also.
might want
Hi,
to.
baby.
You might want to edit this.
I don't care. And then, well, he likes it. He likes it too.
Okay. He likes it rough, apparently.
The next
Damn.
one is another vampire movie.
Blade.
Not surprising.
Blade.
Well, Blade had some good soundtracks. I would say that, but I never bought them. But I bought the Underworld. Underworld? Kate
Yeah.
Beckinsale?
I've never seen it.
I know what you're talking
I
about.
have the
I know.
I have the box set of it, but I never watched it.
Give it to me.
No, it's mine.
I'll never forget when I was in the theater and I saw Wrath of the Titans and Bill Nighy showed up and I just pronounced to my aunt and uncle who were watching it with me, "Hey, he's showing them the entrance to the underworld."
The
Underworld! And they just busted their asses laughing saying, "What are we watching again?" Oh, Wrath of the Titans.
Yeah, but it was a good movie. But the soundtrack again had some big heavy metal bands that I like Static X, a bunch of other ones I can't even remember.
Static
right now.
X is also heavily featured on the Universal Soldier The Return soundtrack, which I listened to last year and actually holds up.
I haven't seen it, but this one I think this was if it's not, I think it was the first one, the soundtrack to the first Underworld, because there's four or five. I don't even know anymore. I've watched all of them. They're all great. Because I just love that they gave, first of all, Kate Beckinsale that role.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's normally not somebody that you would look at for to be a badass fucking
I still
vampire
don't look at
chick. Or you still don't look at her. I liked her. I thought they did a good job.
I preferred Rona Mitra in Part
with
3.
all of that. The other one are all of the Twilight movies.
Really?
Surprise again, vampires!
That's an unpopular opinion.
No, I bet it is, but I will say this
I'm
about...
not going to fault Linkin Park for making that extra money on the side.
Yeah,
but
see,
boy,
it had
howdy.
Linkin Park on the very first one, so of course I
It
bought
took
the
away
first
some of their
album.
credibility, though.
I bought the album for the first movie, the first Twilight movie, and I loved it. It had so many different kind of indie kind of music. Indie,
Muse.
alternative. It was music. that you wanted to like, you know, just feel and vibe with. And then I bought the second one, and then I bought the third one, and then I bought the fourth one, because all of them had like good indie, good feeling, like really like different kind of music. I guess it was at the time where I was listening to something different. You know, I was like, oh, I like this sound, you know, and I've never heard it before.
I'll just pretend you mean the soundtrack to Lost Boys.
No.
Which that is the bastard child of.
It's not the same. It's not the same
Yes,
soundtrack.
it is.
No, the Lost Boys has.
I'm talking about the
music
themes.
Oh, the theme. Well, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the music that's in it, that they have in it. Because I've always liked that. Like, I've always liked to see music that you can hear and that you can hear the lyrics to and sing and be like, oh, I remember it was this scene when they played that movie.
Was in this
when they played that song, you know. And so this one, I really love the Twilight ones because they had everything for every mood.
Yeah.
Like it was a sad mood, there was a happy mood, but you could sing along to it and you could listen to it in your car.
I'm surprised
you know?
they never capitalized on a sing-along. Had this come out in the 90s, there would have been a 90s sing-along. Wouldn't that have been funny?
Probably.
Would've
But
been
Bruno
terrible, but it
Mars
would've
was on it, was on one of the soundtracks.
I can't
who
imagine
else?
vampires having Uptown Funk.
The Joy Formidable was on
I
it.
don't know who those bastards are.
See, that's indie. And so
I'm
I just
pretty
really
indie,
started
Ruby. If I
that
don't
sound.
know you and you're indie.
You don't know the Joy Formidable?
I don't know them and I'm indie.
You need to listen to them.
Why?
Because they're good. They're good
Why are they
indie.
good? Because
If you
they're
like
good.
indie, they have really good feel-good sounds.
Why are
You
they
know,
good
like really
indie?
good vibing.
Okay, I'll
you
take
know,
you
sound.
on your vibes. Since
Take
I
me
finally
on
got
my
the
vibes.
adjective I was looking for.
So all of those I really loved. They had a bit of everything on all of them. There was one that I was gonna say in particular, and I just slipped my tongue right now when I was talking about those soundtracks.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I also loved that in these soundtracks they had a bit of classical music involved, of course, because Edward was a composer, of course.
He was?
In the movie.
I wasn't paying
Who?
attention. I don't remember.
Edward. He was
Edward
a composer
Oh.
in the movie.
The character.
I'm talking
Yes.
about the composer. Who composed this movie?
Oh, I don't know. So
You don't
I
know?
loved. Wait, can I
Let's-
talk about my soundtrack?
Let's ask
Yeah.
Google first.
Okay, ask
Who
Google.
the fuck scored
Who's-
this movie?
But we're
Or
talking about
the
all of the
Twilight
Twilights.
music.
Yeah, there was a specific composer they
For
used.
all of them?
Yes.
Okay.
According to Wikipedia, Twilight original motion picture soundtrack is the official music for the
Oh,
2000.
well,
I
yeah,
know
okay, shut up,
that.
shut up.
Siri, you
Who
jackass.
composed the music for Twilight?
Twilight's music was composed by Carter Burwell.
Yeah, that's who it is.
Carter Burwell. That's what I know that name. But anyway, so then I love how he used the lullaby that Edward composed for Bella throughout the movie. And so you hear bits and pieces throughout the movie, bringing you back to his love for her, you know. And it's funny because it's a bit of foreshadowing because they play the song a little bit before they actually give way that he was the one that composed the song for her. And they just show bits and pieces. So at the end, when they actually say that it was a song that he composed for her, they have the whole thing play out, and they have him playing it with her next to him,
Alright.
which is beautiful. Then they also have Claire de
You lost
Lune
me.
involved in there in the first song, so I love Claire de Lune.
I would
so, yeah.
remember some of this if I didn't have dreaded cinematography to look for.
And-
Whoever
and
is
acting.
lighting. Oh no, just every
The
Directing.
movie.
acting wasn't bad.
The acting was atrocious,
It
but
Who was
kinda
bad?
everybody.
Robert
What?
Pattinson
Even
wasn't
actors
that
who-
great. Kristen Stewart acted like she
Kristen
didn't
Stewart's
care
never
at
been
all.
good. But
I'm gonna cry. It's my favorite movie.
in all
One of my favorite
fairness,
movies.
it's all the problems of just Stephanie Meyer. Let's just
But
say.
it's all because of my whole thing with vampires. Like,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
why I love it so much.
You know, if it makes
Because
you
like
happy,
it was at that moment, it was my ultimate dream to have a vampire boyfriend, which is
There.
teenage
Oh my
stupid shit,
God.
you
right?
could. I mean, there's so
I
there are people who
mean,
identify as vampires. Out
I
there in
guess
the world.
someone here wants to die early.
I
I
mean
guess.
real vampires, not people who identify as vampires. I mean
fucked a
actual
vampire.
fucking bite me in my fucking neck, turn me into a vampire, and we will live immortally forever and be rich motherfuckers and have powers.
Where did rich come from? Where did your money come from?
Cullens are rich. Oh, how would you not be rich after living so many years? How would you not be rich after having mind reading psychic abilities?
I guess.
so.
if
How would
you're-
you not be rich of having the
Hold on.
ability to like use a Jedi force
Maybe,
on them?
maybe,
Force.
Yeah.
maybe if you're a gangsta vampire, like in
You
Blade,
just do
but
like, give me all your
Oh,
money.
yeah.
You will give me
Wait,
all
it's
your
cool.
money.
You will give me all
Yeah,
your
like
money.
that.
My thing
It's
is
called
my problem with romancing a vampire, doesn't that technically count as necrophilia? Because basically they're dead
yeah,
and
that
they're
does.
fucking you and killing you.
And apparently Edward put a baby in Bella while he was
So
dead.
that baby's basically dead.
And then when
That kid's future was dead before
and then the
it
kid
came
comes out, and then Jacob was all like, "Let me get a piece of that action."
Yeah, why don't we have a threesome? But I'm too gay. That's okay. You can have her.
We're like, hey Edward.
I
you know
like
when
Anna
could go?
Kendrick.
Can you imagine that awkward talk between the mom and the kid? And she's like, by the way, I once kissed your husband, so okay, thanks, bye. Like, what the fuck?
Also, you were a baby when that happened.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, next one.
God.
I'm done. Oh no, Shape of Water.
You
The
named
Shape
my
of
daughter after
Water.
the Loch Ness monster. That's a good one.
I ate your cat. Sorry about that shit.
No, The Shape of Water is a really great film. Tell me about the score.
Shape of Water.
Who scored it?
Who scored it?
Oh,
Besides
let's
your
ask.
mom.
It was made by Del Toro, but I don't.
Yeah, I know it was made by Del Toro.
Del
I know
Toro.
that at least.
Not Benicio Guillermo.
Who scored the music for Shape of Water?
You bastards. Do your homework.
Desplat. According to Amazon.com,
Desplat.
editorial reviews, Desplat composed, produced, and
Desplat,
conducted music
Desplat,
for Shape of
Desplat.
Water,
He's
which was
French,
performed by the
right?
London Symphony
Yeah,
Orchestra.
apparently has only
It's
one
French
name.
enough
And
to
that's
be
exactly what the music sounds like. It's very French.
Really?
But I love the way that in one scene they make her looking like she's playing with the water when the water's
When she's not playing with
on
herself.
Yeah, when she's not playing with herself.
What in the world is going on
joking.
here?
Have you not seen the movie?
I've seen the movie, yeah. But where did the whole playing with herself? Oh, I remember.
I haven't even seen it, and I know that happened. So there you go.
I remember now. It was like the first thing that happened.
Do you fast
I'm in
forward?
love with the
that
fish.
part?
Yeah.
Okay.
I fucked a fish.
There's this part where she's on the bus. She's, you know, how she has the night shift at that government building or whatever.
Yeah.
So she's on the bus at night and it's raining. And she's
She
kind of
makes it
like
rain.
in love with the idea of love because she's been so lonely. You know, obviously that's why she plays with
I
herself.
wish I would have relations with the fish
I
monster.
wanna-
No,
fuck the
well,
fish.
she was just thinking of how she was connected to another
I
being
like some
for
nice
once,
salmon
right?
in me.
Uh-huh.
So she was actually like just looking at the water as it was falling down, and she started doing her fingers, and the water started moving like with her fingers, and at that moment, the whole score that's happening looks like it's moving with the water as well.
That part of
And
the
so
score
I just
reminds
love
me
it.
of a lot of Hindu movies.
Yeah, I haven't seen Hindu movies. I haven't.
It's
seen
okay.
Hindu
Watch the
movies.
Bollywood ones that don't have.
What
music
about
in
that
it.
whole scene where she does that whole singing routine?
Oh yeah.
I don't remember that. Did I block that part out because she was singing?
She was
I was like, oh no,
Sally
you ruined
Hawkins.
it.
she was like deaf, but then then she does this whole fantasy sequence with her like singing and
Oh
dancing.
yes. Well, I kind of liked it because it was making it seem like, you know, that was her dream. Like
Yeah.
she was in her moment and she was visualizing what she would sound like and what she would do. So I like that they did that.
Yeah.
Normally I wouldn't because I don't like musicals, like I said. But that part I can see why they did that.
How do you think like the
It went
music showed the relationship between her and the fish monster?
I
I thought the music that they had, if I remember correctly, it was really playful whenever they were
Which is what fish are.
interacting, right?
Playful.
So they made it seem, and they used light tones just to make it so that you know, like, this is not a bad thing that's happening. You know, this is a good thing. So
Okay.
I liked it.
All right. Awesome. What's your next one?
So my next one, which is my last one, is not a movie. It is a TV show.
Oh my
Okay.
god.
Can you guess which fucking one?
Stranger Things.
Yes.
I was
you are
gonna
right,
say-
sir.
This is
Game of
Ruby's
Thrones.
existence.
I'm-
So
I'm going to say that it is because I am a huge 80s music fan. So, of course, I'm going to fucking
The
buy the
synth-
soundtrack.
the
Of course, also
synthesizer.
because it's my favorite TV show.
80s
But
synthesizer.
80s, they had so many good 80s music on there. I wear my sunglasses.
Well, yeah, because they gotta set the tone.
so
Corey
Set the
Hart.
time of the
Corey
film.
Hart.
Exactly.
Show.
Which is why they did it, because it's in the 80s, which is my favorite pastime. So, it is my favorite. I will repeat, it is my favorite.
Did you live through the 1980s?
No, I was
This
born
needs
in
more-
87, so I did not get to do all of that.
I'm sorry. This just needs more Rick Ashley. Never gonna give you up.
Did you wish you were born in the 1980s?
Yes.
You know
well,
that-
I wish I was born in a time where I was a teenager in the 80s.
You know that weed was very, very looked down upon back then.
Oh, yeah, I know.
In the 1980s, rape
Different
was
Weed
time.
an evil
weed
thing.
was looked on,
Anything
all
to
because
throw
of the fucking
minority.
propaganda that they push out
Yes.
against it. So
Anything to make.
people believe everything on their TV sets.
Yes.
And there was
So,
also
yeah,
no
that's
internet.
it.
There was also no
That's
internet.
it.
That is it.
That is
You can
it.
end up with no internet.
Yeah.
You can end up with no really,
Why am I gonna end up with no internet?
because in the 1980s there's no internet.
I didn't say anything about internet. I said the TV.
I don't know what's going on.
What are you talking about?
Someone's in his zone.
Okay.
My
Kinda
top
neutral.
10 movie
yeah,
and
so
TV
that's
soundtracks.
Because those are the only soundtracks that I bought, like I said.
I buy everything. So, my top 10 movie and TV soundtracks include Pitch Black by the great Graham Ravel. This was not an easy soundtrack to acquire. I was able to get it $40 later from a Spanish seller on eBay.
Wow.
And it is very hard to find. This came on a dual disc with Graham's score for Bride of Chucky from 2 years ago. This does a good job. Graham Ravel has previously scored The Negotiator and The Crow, as well as other entries in the Riddick franchise. He uses a few unused cues from Titan AE from the same year. And this one does a wonderful job. You feel the sweat just dripping off all the survivors on this planet. It builds the world without overdoing it. It makes suspense be a character in and of itself, which is why this soundtrack really stands out to me, even more so than the Titan AE one. And second is Speed by Mark Mancina. There's been a recent reissue of this, along with, yes, the Billy Idol end credits song, but Mark Mancina previously was part of the band Yes, which was my first concert, and who they have scored, you know, all those guys have gotten work scoring other movies like The Rock and
Wait, what Billy Idol song
Bad
was
Boys.
at the end?
Speed, give me what I need.
Oh,
You don't
yeah,
remember
I didn't
that?
I
Oh
didn't
my.
know that was Billy Idol.
That was Billy Idol. They did a music video for it also. But this is a wonderful one because the main theme is just, once again, also a character, which is key because this is a situation-driven movie where the characters come second. And it's a one-of-its-kind disaster movie, which I watch every time it's on TV. And this is wonderful because this main score has been used even in a few other movie trailers to set the epic tone.
Oh, really?
Much like the Dragonheart score, there in the 90s, you started seeing a lot of people reusing it. Even fan made trailers on YouTube, I would see people using it. I'm like, how fucking cool.
I also seen the same thing with the song "Recruiting for a Tower" that was used in Lord of the Rings. Yeah,
Okay.
I love that score. That's my favorite.
That's still great.
Okay, go on. What is this?
I love number 3, which is the Heat score. Now, these are free individual themes. Elliot Goldenthal, who's also best known for Batman Forever. The Edge from the band YouTube. And his score is especially particular because it's during the chaotic shootout and ceases to play as soon as the guns come into play. And then Moby, his wonderful theme that repeats during the end theme, the end segment. That's been used in several, credit card commercials as well as other movies and shows, and it's just a beauty. It very much reflects and echoes the Terminator scores in terms of having the city be, again, a character. This is where chaos reigns. This is where two similar like-minded men must challenge each other on both sides of the law. So, number 4 is Born on the 4th of July by the great John Williams. This score sticks out to me and is up there with his various Indiana Jones, Superman, and Star Wars scores because it's just a one-of-a-kind character. Even though it's repetitive, you feel every single dread and ounce of pain from this veteran, and it just shows you how what was the bigger challenge. It makes you ask questions like, was it the bigger challenge just surviving Nam or just surviving himself after the war? It's just a wonderful. Please look for this score somewhere. If someone ever does another Vietnam War movie, they need to reuse this score in the end credits just to pay tribute to all the veterans. Candyman by the great Philip Glass is number 5, and I love this score because it echoes other similar movies like The Exorcist and The Omen, while also...
And you love those?
Of course.
It's so scary.
I was slow to the parade, but I like intelligent horror, like Sinister and Hellraiser. But this was cool because Philip Glass, who's also scored many other movies like 300 and Notes on a Scandal, this is his main key masterpiece, I think, because he really gets a sense of the Louisiana scenery, not Louisiana, it's wherever New Orleans scenery, as well as the voodoo. And there are, much like the Pitch Black score, there are at least 6 different big key scores. There's not just one score that keeps repeating. It is multiple characters for one score. And a damn fine one. The Social Network score by Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails fame. If you listen to some of them on your own, the samples don't do it for you. You gotta just have it on repeat to really get this. This score, I'd say, is opposite. I'm instantly invested in this score. It complements the intelligent, dark comedy as well as the dramatic, historical focus, and as well as the tech-savvy moments. There's
what kind
lots.
Of songs? Like, which one of songs would you mention from it?
I would probably just the intro theme. It just already gives you enough of a vibe of what you're going to expect and endure for 2 hours, and it's a fine one at that. Number 7 would be Spy Gang by the great Harry Gregson Williams.
Okay.
This is where...
Oh, it's Gregson Williams again. Hey.
Oh, right, you mentioned Rupert, so I had to bring up Harry. This is about, again, a spy operative must be rescued by his mentor, who used to be part of his spy agency, and this score makes wonderful use of both electronic as well as rock and piano themes, and it should just be reused in every movie ever. I'm sorry, just give it a listen. You'll probably jam out to it while you're working out. It's just awesome jam. Okay, number 8 is Hard Boiled by Michael Gibbs. Complementing this wonderful John Woo, Chow Yun-fat Hong Kong crime action movie is just this very synthesized, even though it's early 90s, you get a bit of an 80s in there, and it, much like, this is 3 years before Heat, and this was basically Hong Kong, Die Hard in a hospital with gangsters back in its day, and it's a wonderful build-up in every score. You just watch the trailer and you'll know exactly what I mean. It's just... I just am rooting for chaos because I know what I'm going to get is just fantastic cinematic results. It's just that perfect a build-up in that score. And the last 2, since we mentioned Game of Thrones, I happen to have 2 other scores by the great Raymond Djawadi.
All right.
He's best known for Iron Man, as well as the recent Westworld show. I'm more keen on the other shows as well as their scores. They are Person of Interest and Prison Break. I can listen to all these soundtracks individually and never get tired because they're characters in and of themselves. They're never boring. There's never a slow moment. I feel emotion in them, as well as frills and chills.
Like intensity?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay. Honorable mentions to Lawrence of Arabia by Maurice Jarre, Hellraiser Free by Motorhead and Randy Miller, Blade 2 by Marco Beltrami and Danny Saber, The 24 soundtrack by Sean Connery, Terminator 2 by Brad Fiedel, Tears of the Sun by Hans Zimmer, and The Cable Guy by Various, including Jim Carrey.
Alright. Were you going to say something, Ruby? It looked like you were
I was gonna say I should have done honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions.
I couldn't have done honorable mentions.
Star
I would
Wars.
forever.
Star Wars? You're not gonna do an honorable mention for Star
I had
Wars?
Star Wars on there.
I'm
but
gonna...
we would be here forever if I talked about
Just
Star
to
Wars.
spite you,
We need
I'm
to do
gonna
one
give-
show just for Star Wars.
Okay.
Right?
Oh,
Yes, let's do that.
Wait, we gotta get this one person that I know.
Hold
who's
up,
really
hold
good
up.
to be on.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Oh, but next time. I thought we were
Next time.
discussing gangster movies.
Yeah, we're
Next
gonna do
time we
that.
are going
With
to...
our lovely
This
pal, Cody McLean.
Yeah.
Cody
well,
McLean was our guest for next week.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about shootouts and cocaine
Yeah.
and what
All
else?
that kind of stuff. Before we move
All
on,
that great shit.
And slapping bitches.
Oh.
Before we move on, if anybody wants to learn about the topics that I mentioned in this podcast, I strongly suggest you go over to the Sideways channel, and listen to his videos on the
Plug.
subjects, which they're
Plug.
really, really, really good. He's a really good music theorist, and musician. So, he was my primary source of all of that. So if you want to listen to an actual musician talk about these things, go onto that channel.
And if you want more of my personal knowledge,
We're gonna have
if
to
you
do-
want more of my personal
if they
knowledge,
want it, they'll steal your
go
brain.
go follow me on Instagram and Twitter.
Okay.
Oh, can I plug in my name?
Yeah.
Okay, on Instagram it's Ruby Robledo Talent, and on Twitter it's Ruby R Talents.
Ruby R Talents.
Follow me.
We are.
I follow back.
Oh, she follows back. That means you can totally DM.
Ruby's neck.
Yeah.
Ruby's back.
And then she'll
And
always
then I will
respond.
not
She
respond.
always responds. And so,
Who the fuck is this?
Okay, so let's
No, that's
move
Joe.
on. We gotta talk about us.
Oh,
Appeals.
yeah, we said we
The
were going to
next
talk
one.
about
We're
All
gonna
right.
talk about it
Just
briefly.
a
To
little
quote
bit
our great
briefly.
professor, let's focus on the good first, and let's focus on the cons.
Let's start with because about this
Yeah,
film.
okay.
Speaking of Candyman, I really like the main score. It's visible in the trailer. It definitely echoes Candyman in terms of just setting the mood and giving an idea of the cultural scene, as well as just kind of just the dread that will follow throughout
Well, I
the
like
movie.
how he
Is
makes
about
the... Yeah, you're talking about us, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I really like how he mixed that main score too that plays a lot, where it's that old song that I got 5 on
That's
it.
I Got 5 on It by Lunas.
Yeah. So he broke it down and he made the beat go slower and make it sound more as like a shrill like
Gaslight.
dun, dun, dun.
No.
No, that dun, dun, dun.
I cannot listen to
That
that song
one.
again
Yeah.
without
hearing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So I like that he really did that. So that was a good thing.
Yeah,
Another
'cause-
thing were the actors.
Wait, before
I
you
thought
go-
the actors were good.
before we go on to that, I gotta talk about the whole. Sorry.
What?
I love
What?
you, Ruby.
What? Tell me.
But the thing about that
Hammer
song
time.
is the use of Peel using the song "I Got 5 on It" by Lunas is supposed to like show the whole African American background,
The urban.
urban
Yeah,
background,
the urban
especially with these African American this family that it has. And when the father was listening to it on the way to the beach house, he was listening to the song. He's like, "Oh, it's a great song." But the kids were like, "Oh, it's about drugs, right?" And then the dad was like, "No, it's not about drugs." Even though
This
it's
is in the
totally
trailer,
about
by
drugs.
the way.
Yeah.
This is totally about
And
drugs.
they totally did
And-
not know anything about it either.
And
like,
so it
the
also
song,
kind of
like, what?
shows their disconnect that they have
Yes,
with
the kids.
their background as African Americans and all that kind of thing.
I think it's a
So-
little more than that, but
Yeah, I'm overly simplifying it right now. Because of the time. Okay, so okay, actors.
The actors were good. I thought the kids, the
Lupita does
daughter
a lot of
and,
movies I don't care for, but she is good
and
in
the
this.
son and Lupita. The other couple that they run into that are their
Elizabeth
neighbors
Moss.
or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did pretty good.
I'm a West Wing fanatic, so
Now
yeah.
the thing
Yeah.
about the relationship between the black family and the white family, it seems to be like it also shows how even though the black family
Is doing very well.
is
They're
doing
still
very well,
competitive.
they're still competitive with the
Yes.
white family, and the white family still has, you can say, better stuff.
Yeah.
Because when you go to their house, they have that whole Alexa thing. It's not Alexa, it's something else.
Whatever it was
We
called.
couldn't-
What was it called?
I don't remember. We couldn't afford Alexa, so it has that, and it
Jordan Peele
has,
could not afford Alexa.
yeah, it has that, and it has a really nice yacht because the boat that the dad purchased, it was like a rust bucket still, and he still was missing components.
Yeah, and he still like made it have to like he'd have to like hit it
Yeah.
whenever it would
Yeah.
mess up.
So even then, even when black people are in a place of affluence and wealth, they're still on the backside. Compared to a white family, according to Peele. And also when going back to like Peele's use of music is when we see the white family, they were playing the song by the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
And then they would go back, and then as they were being murdered, it switched to NWA.
Yeah.
And so it shows that whole conflict between white, black, and the whole two different sides of California, the urban gangster side.
It did show all that, but at the same time, this movie was not freaking about that. It was not about blacks against whites or nothing like that. It was about some freaking scientists who found a way to clone people where did they get the DNA from this for these people? I don't know, but there was a copy of every single person that was above this freaking hidden scientific lab that's below the Santa Monica pier, and there's a way to get down to it from this freaking game that's like a little bit by the beach, more away. Like it's like it's like isolated. It's just like a mirror house, right? Like a fun house. And it's like, okay, this girl goes in there, and at the very beginning, I knew what was going on. When that little girl smiles like the other little girl, but supposedly that's where you get down to the secret lab, and only one person from down there, from the lab, that was the copy, had their actual original go to that same spot to where they would meet. Just that one copy. None of the other fucking copies that were older and had been there probably longer. I don't know. That's just another hole in the fucking story. Who knows how long they had been down there? How did they get clothes while they were down there? Yeah, we're in the cons already.
Okay, so if you guys look up right now on Vox.com, they examine the whole Jason/Pluto theory.
What is that?
Just feel free to look at it all. It's just dissecting why all the characters act the way they act, and just reading it just makes me like this movie even less, because it reminds me of all just the endless questions you get from a Dogma 95 style movie. There's some good ones, but there's a lot of bad ones I will not mention right now, because it's just endless, and it's just like, I don't know the intent of that, I gotta rewatch it again. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna watch a movie that I'm either frustrated at or like very much just to revisit trivial shit, especially if the filmmaker's just peppering it up. And so I felt like Get Out, he did a good job of just really having a dual conflict, does the fiance like me or not, and will her parents accept me or not through the murderous way. So, and yes, there's a lab in that one as well. And like you say here, with all these multiple labs and the cloning and all, it's just too much.
It's
and
so much.
All the moods and the tones are all over the place.
It's like, yeah.
And everyone's saying, hey, if a movie gives me something to think about, it can't be that bad, right? And I'm just like, well, if you're thinking about endless shit and it's all unorganized, then
Your head's gonna fucking explode, like, seriously.
I can't vouch for that. Well, and there's the good kind of explosion, and then there's the kind of, I just can't get behind it.
I can't. And it was good. Like I love that it was different, and I love some pieces of it. Like we said, there's some pros. It's not horrible. Like I hated that movie Mother. The movie Mother, I hated with the
that
passion.
was terrible too.
No, Mother wasn't a good movie.
No,
So
it
it was
was
all about
horrible.
Douglas Aronofsky, but
So it wasn't
even
like that. So
I knew it was gonna be bad.
I could watch it, and I loved, that it was a different thing, and I know that he was going with the whole different, like, scientists, and there's a backstory, and you think you know, but you don't. I get that. I get that you want to confuse people, but at the same time, it's like, you tell us what it is. You tell us that the scientists made clones, but yet you make an original come down and a copy go up, and the copy's supposed to be the one that's always copying the original, because that's the copy. But yet when the original's down there, she's dancing and copying the fucking copy that's up there. So it's like, what?
I think that's supposed to mean how us as Americans we're really shallow.
We are shallow, and he can play how shallow for not liking this movie all he wants.
Yeah,
That's fine.
and it's about like how.
But I just don't understand. There's so many holes. So like the original was down there and she was handcuffed to a bed. Who got her out of the handcuffs? Who got her out of the handcuffs if those copies are too busy mimicking the people that are up there?
But it's back to my thing about the shallowness. You do make a good point, Ruby, though. But it's supposed to show like how us as Americans, that's a copy, but we didn't know it was a copy, and she acted so much like a person with a soul and everything, but she had no soul, but she was such a good.
She didn't. She acted just like she didn't know. They didn't talk down there. So that's why whenever the parents got her, they were like, something's wrong with her because she's not talking.
Yeah, but
and that's why she started learning. She started seeing, well, obviously she's been a copy down there for so long, how's she not going to be able to copy these people and see how they live and how they talk and mimic them in that way? I'm just talking about the fact that he's saying the story is that these scientists made these copies, and these copies, all they literally do is stay down there and mimic the motions that they're making.
Yeah, it sounds like you're very focused on that one little thing.
What do you mean? That is because it doesn't. That's the thing that doesn't make sense because she makes. Okay, the original. If the one that was up there the whole time is the copy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're making the original copy. The copy left Santa Monica.
Yeah.
So wouldn't that original down there, if she's also campy in her dancing, wouldn't she have left too?
Yeah, that's kind of odd. Another thing is how did she kidnap her? She didn't mimic that. She did that on her own accord.
She didn't. Oh, see, that's another thing.
Well, but more
dragged her
importantly, since we've been bringing up filmmaking 101 this entire episode, I would say this just fails that simple test by just not whose story is it? You know, the wife, the husband, the evil neighbors. It's just
The evil copy.
it's not focused.
the
Yeah, the
original.
clones. It's just everybody is all over the place,
Yeah.
and that's just what pisses me off. I know people are going to give it credit because it's not conventional filmmaking, but
Also, that
No.
whole Hands Across America thing. Like, why
Yeah.
that symbolism?
Oh,
Why?
that's because back in the 1990s, the Hands Across America was this whole thing to stop poverty, but it didn't.
right.
And it's supposed to show how we Americans just view that like as a one simple solution, even though it's not a simple solution.
Right, just like
So-
what George Bush did
And
with
nobody
schools.
ever followed up with it, and there's still poverty.
Yeah, that's why.
Planned
And
Parenthood
so now
still fired.
these tethered people took this thing and they're like, oh my goodness, we gotta do that.
Even though they're complete copies and don't have a mind of their own.
Yes. And that's what they did. They did the whole Hands Across America thing because it was supposed
But they
to be
first
like
thought about killing the people. Like, how did they not know that that was wrong?
about how killing is wrong.
If they made a whole idea about, oh yeah, let's do the Hands Across America, yes, our savior, blah blah blah. But yeah,
I
let's
think
go kill people.
I will admit, that was part of the brainwash. They're using ideas that don't exist to get what they want.
Yeah.
That could be answered. That's one of the few questions that actually can be answered.
So,
I can't answer
what do you
anything.
guys think about the whole duality of the of the American dream represented in this film?
I would say it takes some real dissecting. I know a lot of people like to look for stuff like that in a maze with a minotaur and all. I just feel like because it's all over the place and I'm very underwhelmed by the elements I'm not liking, I'm not looking for stuff like that. So
Alright.
I'm sure if I were to see this with Jordan Peele's commentary on, it might be an easier.
Yeah, I
We
think
gotta-
so too.
we
Yeah,
gotta
we gotta
look at
probably look at
that,
that. Another thing we were gonna talk about, we wanna close out this music sesh.
Before
Are
we
you
do,
gonna keep on going
there's
about
one more
us?
thing
Okay.
last that I really liked is in the Peele's use of the Black Sails. Black Sails was like a band. I
Yeah.
was like really into like anti-government, anarchist, that kind of thing.
Oh, really?
And
yeah, that's
in- And in the film, it was in the 1980s segment. It was worn by like some carny, so it was like worn by like this underpowered guy who was just this blue collar worker. And then later on, when the present came in, we see one of the twins wearing a Black Sail shirt. But it was a later album, and it was supposed to be like back when they kind of went more into conformity and all that kind of stuff.
I did not notice that.
Yeah, so
That's
it's kind of
good.
about that, kind of like how things get whitewashed and all that kind of stuff. And also, the twins, they're literal copies of each other.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, well, we just leave. Next thing. Next segment.
So what 5-star rating are we giving this movie?
1 million. Next, moving on.
Wait, nah, he went way over.
I'm
No,
giving this a
we were
1
just
out
gonna.
of 5. I will not
I would give
rewatch.
it a 3. I would give it a 3 because Mother, I would give a 1. Like I would not.
I'd
don't
give
watch
Mother a
that
0 out of
movie.
5.
I didn't watch
Yeah, 0. I was mad that whole movie.
I know it was nominated for a Razzie for Worst Picture.
And
I
for
was
Jennifer
so
Lawrence.
mad. But I
She
wanted to
does
talk
have a
about,
right
aside from soundtracks and movies, like what kind of music are you guys listening to
I
nowadays?
do lots of electronic and alternative rock and
You like
pretty
EDM and stuff like that?
always.
You go to raves?
I have yet to actually.
Oh, snap.
Dude, next time you know of one, let's go.
The
'Cause
Lizard Lounge.
I've never gone to
Let's
one.
go for the Vampire Ball this Halloween.
Oh, that sounds very tempting.
I'll go as the Wishmaster.
I
You'll
will
go as who
definitely
knows.
go as a
Friday
vampire.
Taco.
As a vampire, duh.
Yeah.
I'm listening to a lot of indie lately, and
What
I
kind of
love
indie?
it. I
Indie
just
pop?
love everything about indie, like the whole lifestyle, everyone, like the whole like
Yeah, but
idea
which-
of nothing but love and peace.
Which
like,
indie genres?
Which indie
it's my
subgenre?
heart. So I'll give you some names of the bands, just for example, like Broncho. Broncho's awesome. Lunar Vacation.
I think
The
I've heard of it.
Slaps. The Slaps. Girl K. Sales. Varsity. I'm gonna mention Hers because
I have heard of hers. They're interesting.
they just died.
I did not know that.
They
There was
were.
I know
bus
some.
crash.
They were they were on their way to one of their shows, and there was a drunk driver who caused an accident, and not just the two band members died, but their manager as well.
Yeah. I don't know about accident because that implies that no one is to blame.
Well, they weren't drinking and driving; the other driver was.
So he was to blame.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
So it wasn't
what
an
they're getting
accident.
at.
Well, I mean, that's what it was. So just don't fucking drink and drive and be stupid. Because I have a lot of indie bands who are on the road that tour that I do not want to have taken away from me, just
And
like
you don't
hers,
have to
because
make
it's
their money
very,
back.
very sad.
Also, I'm on the road and I don't want to be taken away from.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we're with
But
you.
also Spend Time Palace. Listen to Spend Time Palace.
You're gonna have to
I
make a
love
list of
Spend
this
Time
to go with
Palace.
this, right?
Yeah.
You're on Spotify, so I'm sure you can share.
I can share you. And then also Greer. Like I love Greer and Wallows. Oh my god, I'm gonna go see them at the end of this month. It's gonna be so sick.
Nice.
And then I'm going to Shaky Knees that same weekend, which I already have my wristband on for. And it's not even 3 weeks. My dumbass opens the package and puts the wristband on and tightens it.
Package.
And now I can't remove it and I have to keep it on for 3 weeks.
What if, like, by the end of the 3 weeks, you can't take it off because you become so infused with it?
Well,
Oh god,
That's
like
where
my
there's
skin
scissors.
starts growing over it.
Or maybe, like, you have the psychological attachment to it that you
oh
can't
my
take it off.
god.
Maybe,
Now,
I mean,
this
if Shaky
making
Knees is
sense.
as awesome as I think it's gonna be, then I might fucking keep it on
So
forever.
I take it you're writing a movie about this.
Not what? No.
You
About what?
Oh, you've read all horror movie stuff.
Oh, no, that's not
Okay,
good.
you go. What are you listening to?
Hip hop. Mostly
Blah,
from.
hip hop.
Mo-
It takes two to make
Mo-
the thing go right.
Mostly from the East v West era that went from 1990
East Coast,
so,
motherfucker.
which was like during that time back when like that massive rivalry between Bad Boy and Death Row.
Is that all you listen to?
Oh yeah, we're talking about
Puff
Tupac.
Daddy.
Puff Daddy, yeah. Tupac.
Did
Who
Puff
did
Daddy.
it? Who did, well, he kept changing his name just like Prince, and because he didn't have the rap criteria skills needed, he pretty much was like, "I'll finance this feud."
Mm-hmm.
I encourage you guys to box it out at the MTV Movie Awards.
Oh yeah, that was a whole
Verbally.
thing. But we're talking about Tupac, Biggie, Ice Cube, NWA, Dr. Dre.
I'm glad you brought up Ice-T because I am a
He
here
said Ice Cube.
Ice-T.
He likes Ice Cube.
Well, he's part of that same era, but with Body Count. Body Count I love because they're a mix of metal and rap.
Mm.
And so, and
Kind of
that,
like Cypress Hill.
Cypress Hill.
yes, but I would actually put them ahead of Cypress Hill because they get into some deeper shit. Like there's this one single there's on this one soundtrack I own where they're just like, "Dirty bomb, no one is safe. Save yourself. Fuck everybody else."
Okay, I was listening to a Slipknot song like that this morning.
That's exactly how it is. It's political, but just psychological thinking political as opposed to just a random rant
Yeah.
or a diss.
No, and I will say I've also been listening to that because I have my new truck that has XM radio on it, and there's this
Oh.
station called XM Turbo where they play nothing
Turbo.
but 90s hard rock, so I get to listen to all my favorites like Godsmack, Tool, Slipknot, Korn. They even play Limp Bizkit on there, which I love Limp Bizkit.
I really like that. I listened to Limp Bizkit.
Break stuff!
Break the fucking face tonight.
I listened
I went
to
to that concert.
Did you
Yeah, and
really?
it was fucking.
I listened to his collaboration with Method Man. Because it's Method Man.
That's not a bad one, actually.
I can't remember
no.
that one.
Yeah, we're talking like.
Method Man's got the method.
But like as
And
far
we'll
as
remix it
new rock,
in our next episode.
I love this new punk that's kind of like punk rock band. They're called Pup, P-U-P. Like, oh my god, I love them. I'm also gonna go see them in May.
Awesome.
As soon as I get back from Shaky Knees, I'll be coming back on a Monday, and then that Wednesday is Pup.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go see them and 2,000 Foot Turtle. Go and look them up and go to one of their shows because their shows. If you want intense
Yes.
You want to feel intensity? All you have to do is watch this band do. Like the guitarist, the lead singer, like, oh my god. And then he gets on the harmonica too, and it's like, what? What?
Well, the only group I listen to is like Wu-Tang Clan.
Oh, of course.
Wu-Tang Clan, Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Bone Thugs.
Hey, you know,
My husband really
anything's
likes
better
Bone
than
Thugs.
Boys II Men.
Oh
Yeah.
god. My husband listens to all that R&B, like old school R&B. I like new school R&B, like The Weeknd. That's my type of R&B.
Yeah, but I also
I'm not so much into R&B, but there are a few jingles that really get to me because they're well thought out. But
Which ones? You're like, it's so
late
funny, right?
90s era, there's a few jingles. Here
Yeah,
and there.
there's some. Like I like.
The main issue is when it dwells all into we're all gonna fuck, and it's like, let's leave that to Sade. She's a wonderful kind of mix of jazz and pop, not so much R&B. But you know, I'd see her music in a heartbeat because she's just very collected and
There was
beautiful
I also
music.
really, really, really like Farside and the Fugees.
Those aren't
are
bad.
Yeah, the Fugees. Yeah, of
Fugees.
course. Yeah, with Lauryn Hill. Right.
Yeah, I think so. Her solo stuff is also really good too.
Of course.
But
she can never perform ever again.
Why?
She never shows up at her shows.
Really? What?
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I also like listen to the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. That's one of my favorite albums. I also really like in terms of albums into the Wu-Tang. I really like.
So you don't like any new music?
I could get into.
You listen to Drake? Don't you still listen to Drake?
Used to, yeah.
You don't listen to him anymore?
I do enjoy.
He's only gotten better.
Fun fact, about 3 years ago, I was networking with a bunch of guys at a TGI Fridays, and I was meeting this one guy, I forgot how we met. I think he had been like an extra or something. Oh, he was meeting, I met him for a Craigslist ad because I was trying to catch people to be part of a SWAT team. His name was Marco Zambito, and he was part of the band High Five. I don't know who the hell remembers that nowadays. But it was so funny. He was like, yeah, let's collaborate, let's do all this other stuff. And he was talking about how basically that band just slowly dissolved because everyone started getting spoiled and less serious.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, that's totally what he did to me. He just blew me off. He was like, okay, I thought you wanted to...
Hold it. We're not recording.
What?
It was recording, but I think it died on us.
Oh, what part, bro?
Well,
It didn't die on us. It still has some. Oh no, it died on us.
Well, then you're going to have to echo the dialogue from the camera. And then that's a real job.
Yeah. Well, we still have the camera audio. So
yeah, the
it's
camera
something.
audio is on.
Right, so then you'll
We're
just
so
echo
unprofessional!
Okay, well.
We're going to edit that part out, I guess. Or not.
I was gonna say something about what you were saying. until you-
High five.
No,
Yeah.
after that. You said something after
Blew
that.
me off.
He blew you off. He blew you off, really?
Yeah, I just didn't respond to my text. I'm like, I thought we wanted to do something together.
I thought we were.
Oh yeah, that's what we're gonna talk about. I'm gonna start making music. I have my guitar right there, you see? And I'm
Oh.
learning the
It
notes.
better be fucking good guitar.
We have a guitar chords
I have a
poster right
thing
there.
Where are you gonna perform?
Electric. I don't know yet. I have to fucking make music first.
Let's get a test of the voice for our listeners.
Oh no, I'm not gonna be singing any kind of like, I'm gonna tell you like Finn, I sing, but it's not like la la. It's
You're not
like
doing your
that.
Latina Alanis Morissette.
Not Shakira and
Oh
that
my God.
crazy stuff. It's just gonna be
Hey, as long as it's not
Me.
Christina Aguilera, I'm good.
no.
Slutty
I don't
up
think so.
there.
Well, we
No.
apologize in advance for the audio thing that just died on us. What can you do? It happens.
Next
It
time.
happens to the best of us. Oh, before we go, I gotta shout out there is one contemporary artist that I really, really enjoy, and I think she can get out there because she has such talent and
Okay.
a big future.
It is.
No, it's music from this new album that came out called When We Go to Sleep, Where Do We Go? By one Billie Eilish.
Oh, he's a Billie Eilish fan.
She's a really good artist. She's very
She's
good.
How do you spell that
different.
surname?
She's
Huh?
just
How do you
different.
spell that surname?
Eilish.
Eilish.
Just like a Billy and it'll be the next thing. She likes Justin Bieber.
I-L-I-S.
She's a teenager.
I know.
Oh.
She's
It's
17.
different. I admire her for doing something different and stepping out of everybody else's like normal. So that's what you do
Really?
nowadays in the music industry. You gotta be so different.
Yeah. She also collaborated a lot with her brother in that album, and that was really good because they meshed really well.
I like how she did that Office intro.
Oh, yeah.
Bad man or bad guy or something.
Yeah,
like
bad
that.
guy, yeah.
Bad guy.
And it was, that was from the Threat Level Midnight, that
What?
thing.
What is that?
The Office episode.
Oh, the Office.
That came out.
You said
Well, real
Office,
quick, I'm gonna shout out some local Dallas artists because, of course, we're in Dallas. This
We're
is
out
where
of
we
time.
are. D-Town. No, I was just gonna say, Haw Johnson and Sarah King. So, love you guys.
I'm going to egg on my wonderful pals York and Hawthorne. Tim York and Michael Hawthorne know how to do a mix of soul, alternative rock, as well as just thought-provoking progressive soul rock, and you can find them every once in a while at Port David's Pub in Dallas.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
All right,
Dallas.
we're done. That's it. That's the end. And next time. we will
Next
talk
time,
about-
gangster.
Bang, bang, bang.
All right, we're done. All right, bye.